Gutenberg is the name given to the WordPress editor, and when I say editor, what I'm referring to is the tool that you'll use when you're creating a new post or a new page. Gutenberg is pretty much the same for both posts and pages. So let's create a new post and we can see the Gutenberg editor. Now, when you first open for a new poster or page, this is probably the screen you'll get. You'll notice the sidebar has gone, but that's because we are in full screen mode. We can turn full screen mode off by clicking the three little dots and then full screen mode, and then we can work with that sidebar. The reason you can go full screen and remove that sidebar is if you just need a little bit more horizontal space on the screen to create your pages. I like to have that sidebar there. So I come out of full screen mode and WordPress remembers the choice. So next time I go in to add a post, that sidebar will still be there. In the Gutenberg editor, you have a toolbar across the top, you have a panel over on the right hand side, and you have a large editing window in the middle. The formatting of this editing window will be dependent on your theme. The theme I've got active in this install is 2021 and this is the styling for 2021. But if I go into my themes and change to a different theme, let's say I'm going to activate Astra. Go back to create a new post, and you'll see that the part of the ed where you build your post has now changed format. Let's try one more theme. Let's try the 2020 theme.
Okay, and it's different again, so be aware of that if you are seeing something that looks very different
from my screen, it's possibly the theme that is controlling that. So this large window, then, is where you build out your contents. If you have a title and images and text, this is where you're going to put them, and you're going to put them in there using blocks. But before we look at the box, let's just have a look and see what effect it has when you create content. In this area, because a web page is built up of different sections, we have a header at the top. We have an area in the middle which I've labeled here, Gutenberg blocks, and then we have a footer. What you're building inside this large panel here is what will appear inside this Gutenberg block section. So the Gutenberg editor isn't affecting the header, it isn't affecting the footer. Now, there's a chance you may have a sidebar on your theme in this case. You see that the sidebar is also not controlled by Gutenberg or the Gutenberg blocks that you're building. Inside this area, the content that you build in this large editing panel appears inside this rectangle labeled Gutenberg blocks with or without a sidebar. So let's see this in practice. I've started a new post and I'm going to type in a title. Call it Gutenberg tutorial, and I'm going to click on publish just to save and publish the post, and I'm going to click on View Posts so you can see what's happened. So at the very top, we have the page header, the very bottom from down here, we have the page photo. In between the header and the footer, we have the content that I created with the Gutenberg editor. At the moment, it's just a title. Let's go back and we'll add a little bit more so you can see how you can build up a page. Going to add in a paragraph block, and I'll type in a little bit of text.
Okay, we've got a block of text. Let's update.
And we'll go back and view again. You can see now we've got the header, we've got the photos still. And in between those we have the content that I've created so that we have a title. I have some text. The layout of this page or the formatting of this page is controlled by the theme. So this is the 2021 theme if we go back and change the theme. Let's try the Astro theme and then we go back to our post. You can see it looks different in the ed itself. Let's preview Unitab and you can see now that we have the header of the Astra theme, we have the footer of Aspartame. We've also got a sidebar. And the content I built with Gutenberg blocks appears in the Gutenberg area. Going to change back to the 2021 theme, just so we can be consistent.
Okay, we're back in the editing screen. Let's add another block. I'm going to add in, I want to
add in an image, but I don't see image here. So I'm going to just search for image and then I can see it there and I can just drag it into the position where I want the block to appear. To select one from the media library. Going to resize it a little bit. And we've now got text and an image. Let's preview that. You can see now we have the text and the image, so bit by bit, we're building up the page. We've added a title, we've added some paragraph text, we've added an image, and all this is within the Gutenberg block area. Underneath that photo, above that header. If you go and look at any web page out there, you'll notice that they will have a header at the top. There'll be a footer down the bottom, and then in the middle there will be the content of the web page. And that web page, no matter which web page you're looking at, can be built up of blocks. So we have a block here of text. Then we have a header, then we have another block of text, another header, more headers and text. We have an image inserted into here. We have some text, another image, and so on. Every web page out there can be built up with blocks like paragraph blocks, image blocks now in Gutenberg. There are a lot of different blocks. You can see we have some listed up there. And that's what this section of the course is all about. It's about getting used to the tools built into Gutenberg so you can build out the pages to look the way you want them to look. Just in closing, I want to come back to this diagram again with the head of the footer and even the one with a sidebar. You know that whatever content you create in the Gutenberg Ed appears inside that Gutenberg blocks area of the web page, but I've told you that the big Ed doesn't affect the head of the footer or the sidebar. In other words, the page layout. So what is it that affects the header, footer and sidebar and how the page is styled? You've probably already guessed that it's the theme that you've chosen. The theme will control the styling of that content. So the font and the colors that are used, and it will also control pretty much everything else. The positions of the header, sidebar, footer, even whether there's a sidebar or not, because the theme is so important and its interactions with Gutenberg. I would suggest as you go through this section of the course, you stick with the same theme that I'm using. That way you should see the same properties. You should see the same things that I'm showing you on my screen. If you deviate and you choose a different theme, then your screen may well look very different and you may not have all the properties that I have when I'm styling something. So I would recommend you stick with the 2021 theme as you go through this section. You can always switch back later, but just for this section of the course, humor me and go with the 2021 theme. I want to spend this video looking at the interface for Gutenberg. We've already seen it briefly. I want to just go into a little bit more detail. The interface itself has three components. It has the toolbar across the top. It has the main editing window and it has this panel on the right. Now, if you are seeing this without the panel on the right, that's because you've turned it off. This button up here that looks like a cog. If you click on, it will open up that panel for you. You'll notice that the panel has two tabs. There's post and there's block posts. Other properties that apply to the entire post that you're creating, let's say the permalink that applies to the post, which category the post is going to be in, whether you're going to have tags applied to the post, what featured image you're using for the post and so on. That tab post applies to the whole document. Block, on the other hand, applies to the currently selected block, and we don't currently have a block. So let me just put in a title and we'll put in paragraph.
Okay. Start of a paragraph anyway.
Now, if I select that paragraph, then I go onto the block tab. I see the properties for that block. That block is a paragraph. So you obviously have the options for changing font size, line height. That's the distance between any two lines, the color. So you can select the text color and select the background. You can also change the color of links that might appear in that text and you can apply drop caps. And there are some advanced options down there as well. Be aware that these options that you see are controlled by the theme. So if you're not seeing an option that I'm showing you, it's because you're probably not using the same theme as I am. Remember, I suggested you use 2021 while you follow through the Gutenberg section of this course. Let me add another paragraph block, and I can do this in a number of ways. I can click the little plus at the top and click on paragraph to add one, and it will add the paragraph down underneath.
Okay, this is my second paragraph. You can select a blog simply by clicking into it.
So if I want to edit the first blog, I can click into it and edit that block. If I want to select the second one, I can click into the second one. There is also up here a list view, which if you click on it, you can select the different blocks through there as well. Let me just add in heading. And I'm going to move it to the top. And then we bring the list for you down again. You can see heading followed by paragraph 1 4 by paragraph 2. So that is the other way of selecting the block you want to work on. If I open up the panel on the right, click into the heading, you'll see that the options have changed. Now, these options are options that apply just to headings, so the block properties will change depending on the block you've got selected. If we just add in one more item here, I'm going to add in an image so you can see what the properties for an image looks like. Select one from the media library.
Okay, there's an image inserted and I open that panel again. Look at the block properties.
That's the properties for the images. You can see that we have a number of different options here that only apply to images. So in all text there.
Okay, you get the idea. The block properties apply to the block that's selected, and the properties will be different depending on which block type is selected.
And of course, remember, it can also depend on the theme you're using, because if a theme doesn't support a particular property, you're not going to get that property in the block properties panel. Now, you'll notice that with this image selected, we've got this menu bar over the top of the image. And if I select on paragraphs, I'll get a slightly different menu bar that refers to the paragraphs. If I select the heading, you can see I've got a menu bar that refers to the options for the heading block. One thing you can do up here in the options is you can select the top toolbar. And when you do that, all of those options for the currently selected block appear up at the top here, instead of right above the block. And you may prefer that. So let's go through this top toolbar. Then the first one is to insert a new block, and you can insert a block by searching for it down the list. You see, there's lots and lots of blocks you can add. If you know what the block is, you can search for it. So I gave that example of images. If I start typing an image, it comes up with relevant blocks that, or at least thinks it's relevant. So we've got image, media and text gallery post featured image. Just close that down. We've also got a couple more tabs here. We've got patterns and we've got reusable will. Come on and have a look at reusable shortly. Patterns are just blocks that have been made up or pre-made up for you that contain a number of different elements. So, for example, if I insert this contact information block, you can see it's just inserted it. Let's just move it down towards the bottom of the page. It's inserted a block which contains a lot of different information. These are the patterns. And these patterns are for the 2021 theme. You have a number of different options. You've got buttons, columns, gallery. I'll leave you to look through those because they're worth experimenting with. It's going to close that selector over there and look at the next button, which is currently looking a little bit like a pencil. And there's two options as edit, which is the pencil and select. I don't really understand that. You may find a use for select. I don't. We've then got undo and redo. If you do something you want to undo it, you can click the undo button. If you undo something and then you decide you want to after all, then you can click the redo button. The button gives you some information about your current post. So this one has 149 characters, 23 words, 1 heading and so on. And then there's a document outline. And this one is the view which you've seen before. We've added a few more things to our posts now. So we've got the heading at the top, followed by the first paragraph, followed by an image followed by another paragraph, and as I click on them over here, they're selected in the main document viewer. Then we got columns, which is a block. Columns can contain, obviously columns, and each column can contain different blocks. So the first column you see highlighted now with a square around it has a paragraph in it, and I can select the paragraph from column 1 by clicking on over here. Then we have column 2 with a paragraph, then we have column 3, which has social icons, and then we've got a number of social icons defined for that. And then we end up with paragraph block at the bottom, which happens to be empty. So this list view is another way of navigating through your document. We've then got Save Draft if you want to save your document. If you want to preview your post, you can click the preview button and it'll give you option to preview. As a desktop, as a tablet was a mobile. So you can see what your site is going to look like in those different things. You can also open the preview in a new tab with the bottom button down there, and that will create a new tab in your browser. Open the post office. Have a look at that. We've got the publisher. You want to publish the post? That's what you click, and that will start it off asking, are you ready to publish? I'm going to just cancel that. And then we have the cog, which we've seen opens up the post and block properties. Then finally over here, we've got this options menu, which have had a brief look at the top toolbar. Remember the panel up here above? A block can be inserted at the very top of the screen, if you prefer spotlight mode. We are currently using a visual ed, but if you need to insert code or working code, you can select the code version and you'll see then we have an email code version of that post, and then down under the tools, we have a number of tools. We have a block manager. This allows you to hide certain blocks if you never use them. So if you never use the login logout block, you can hide it and it will then just show you the blocks that you want to be shown up here. So you're not having to go through lots and lots of blocks every time you need to do something. Reusable blocks we're going to come back and have a look at in this section of the course. So we'll ignore that for the moment. Keyboard shortcuts. If you want to use keyboard shortcuts to navigate your way around Gutenberg, you can do that. There's a welcome guide. There is a copy your content, which could be quite useful if you want to make a copy of a poster. A page to say copy your content, and I'm going to go over and do this in a new tab so I don't lose the current page onto the new post. Right, click and paste and you can see my entire post has been pasted into the new post. Let's just close that for a moment. And then at the very bottom, we have preferences, which I'll let you have a look through. You can just go through those various types and have a look at those preferences. And if we go over and have a look at the Gutenberg editor for pages, it's almost identical. But there are a couple of differences I want to point out up here. You can see it now says page and block rather than post and block. And the page properties are fewer. You don't have things like categories and tags with pages, so they're hidden from this. But the blocks are going to be exactly the same when you had blocks. You'll get the same block properties. So that's the Gutenberg interface. In the next video, we're going to have a look at the anatomy of a block. We're going to look in a little bit more detail about that menu that pops up over the top of the block, giving us options and various properties for the selected block. When you go to add a new post or add a new page in WordPress, you're essentially building a new web page for your website. And in WordPress, web pages are built up of blocks. We've seen some before. And you know that this button will give you access to lots of different blocks. So in this video, I want to have a look at the structure of blocks. They all are very similar, but they all have different properties. So it's going to take you a while to go through them all. Have a look at the properties and so on. So let's just put in the title and I'm going to add in a new paragraph block. Now, Gutenberg offers me a new paragraph block here by default, so I can just type in there. Is the paragraph block, and when you select the block, you can see there is a menu above the block. The menu, you see, is specific to the paragraph block, So we'll look at a few different blocks and we'll look at the menus and we'll look at the sorts of things that are found in those menus. But also remember that we also have a panel over here which gives us more options. And in fact, you can access those through this little menu here. The Options menu, 3 little dots. If you go down to Show More Settings, you also see a keyboard shortcut there. And if you click on that, you get the other options for this paragraph block. Right from the start, I want to point out that the options you get in here in this menu and down the side are controlled by your theme. So if I am showing you an option, let's say one of these alignment options, and you're not seeing the same thing, it's probably because your theme doesn't support it or your theme offers different options. So you may well see changes. Again, if you're using the 2021 theme, you should see what I'm showing you on the screen. So with a paragraph block, the very first button is the option to change that block to a different type. Currently it's a paragraph, but we could change it to columns, heading, list, quote, any of these other block types. Let's change it to a heading. And when I do watch the menu above the paragraph, you see, it's now changed. These options are options specific to headings, so we have, for example, the level of the heading. We have different options there, which we didn't have for the paragraph. And those options are the same. You'll also notice that over on the right, the block properties in the panel are no different as well. Let's go back to the paragraph. You see those changing and this menu changing again. The next button is for alignment, so you can align text left, you can align text center, you can align text right. If you select some words within your text, you can make it bold by clicking the bold button, or italic, or bold and italic. If you want to, you can also insert a hyperlink, so select the text that you want to link, click on that button and you can start typing. Now, you can type in a full URL if you want to. However, if the page you want to link to is on your own site, type in part of the title of that page. And you'll see it listed here. There's the Hello World post on this local site of mine, so I can just select that. And then that word paragraph would be hyperlinked. When you select a hyperlink, you see this button changes, it now becomes an unlink button. So if I click on that, it will unlink that word. The next item here allows you to do a few things to the text in the paragraph block. You can insert inline code, you can insert an inline image, you can make the text superscript, subscript, straight through, or text color. So, for example, if I wanted to change the color of the word paragraph, I can highlight the word paragraph, come down to text color and then make the change of color, and you see now that word paragraph has changed. I'm going to just control that to get back out of that. The final button here is the Options button. And up there at the top, we've got the Hide or Show More options, which just shows that panel on the right. We can duplicate a block that we got just duplicated, that paragraph blocks. So we've now got 2 paragraph blocks. Do it, duplicate another one. And you'll notice that now that I've duplicated it, we've now got these 2 buttons appear at the front. We've got the 6 little dots and we've got the up-down arrows. Let me just change this. Text, this is the first paragraph block. If I select that paragraph block, I can move it down through the blocks to the position using those little arrows. You can also grab this handle and drag it. And as you drag it, you'll see a line is drawn on the screen to indicate where it will end up if you drop it. So this is the first paragraph block. Let's move it to the first, so to drag it up, line drawn. There we go. Let's go back to this option menu again. So we've seen duplicate. You can insert a block before the current one. We can insert a block after a current one. We've also got a move to now. I would recommend that you use these buttons on this toolbar for move, too, because this move to I've always found a little bit buggy editors HTML. Well, if you click on that, you'll see your paragraph as HTML rather than the visual editor, but you can bring the visual editor back by clicking on the 3 little dots and go back to edit visually. Bit more detail in this section of the course, and we can also remove a block. Now, when a block is selected, we've been through this menu at the top, you know that over here on the View menu, you can add that menu to the top if you want to, because we've seen that before. The other thing we should quickly do is have a look at the block properties, because besides that menu up there, we've also got the block properties over on the right as well. We're dealing with paragraph block, so we can change the font size. We can change the line height. If I can just demonstrate that, let me just copy that bit of text and I'll duplicate it, and then we'll change the line height and watch what happens to the text in the paragraph. As the line height increases, the gap between those lines increases. We can change the color, so we can change the text color, the background color. We can change the color. If there's a link in your text, we can add drop caps. I think we've seen this before, and then we have these advanced options down here, which we're not going to go through now. So that's the paragraph block. Let's have a look at a different type of block. Let me add in an image. And I'll choose an image from the media library. And let me just resize it a little bit now. When the image is inserted, you'll see that the menu at the top now is a little bit different. We've got different options which apply to images. We have the same change image type. So we can change that to columns, media, tax gallery, cover file and group. We've also got the moving buttons because we have more than one block here. So we're able to move them, can change alignment. These alignment options will be depends upon your themes. If you don't see all of them, it could be a theme issue. You can also link the image to a web page. We've seen had to do that before. And then we have a crop button. If you click on that, the toolbar changes to give you a few extra tools. So we have a zoom. We have aspect ratio and we have rotate. Let me just show you how the zoom would work. If you wanted to zoom in on a bit of the image, I can do that, and then I can just move the image around. The aspect ratio button will allow you to change the aspect ratio. So we had the original, but if we wanted to make it into a square, we could do that. It doesn't work very well. Let's go back to the original, and you have some options down there, and then rotate. We can rotate the image. You just come back out, come up a little bit, and you can see now that the image is rotated 90 degrees to the right clockwise. If I click it again, it rotates another 90 degrees, click it again, another 90 degrees, and then click once more. And we're back to the normal when you're happy with your image. Click on Apply and you're now set up. The next option over here is to add text overlay to your image. If I click on that, I can add the text block to my image. But notice, when I press the return, we've come down here and it's asking me to type or choose another block, so I can actually add all sorts of things as an overlay on my image if I want to. It's going to Ctrl Z to come back out of there, back to where we were. The next button up here allows you to colorize your image in different ways, so we can have a dark grayscale, light or lighter grayscale, or we can use different colors so that, say, purple and yellow. And then it converts my image using those colors. I'm just going to come back and undo that change to come back there. The next button, Replace, will allow me to replace the image with a different image if I want to. These options are all the same, and if we open the sidebar, you can see that we have properties specific to images which you can have a play around with. So there are styles. You can alternate text in there. That's good for visually disabled people visiting your site. You have images turned off that will be read to them so they know what the image is supposed to be. You can change the image size and you can have specific control over the images as well. And then we have a few advanced options down there, which I wouldn't touch unless you know what they do. So that's the anatomy of a block. You've got the block itself, you have this toolbar across the top, which is specific to the type of block you've inserted, and you have this panel down the side, which is, again, specific to the block that is selected. If the properties that you see are not the same as the properties I'm showing you, it is probably theme dependent. So have a go at the 2021 theme. All of the options you've seen in this video should be valid change to a different theme. And I can't tell you what's going to be there and what isn't. In this video, I want to go through the steps that you'll take when you create a new post or a new page. We're going to create a new post. So let's go to Post, Add New, and the first thing you'll want to do is give your post a title. And let me just call mine My Dogs, and then you'll see that Gutenberg has already added a block for you. You can start typing and that will automatically make it into a paragraph block, or you can click on the little plus there and you can choose the block type that you want. If you don't see the block that you want, you can click on Browse All, which will then open up the side panel, or you can do a search, which we've seen before in previous videos. Usually posts can start with a paragraph of text. So I'm going to paste in a paragraph that I already wrote, and there's the first paragraph on my web page. At any point in time, you can click on this preview button and preview in a new tab, and that will show you what your web page is looking like. You can see the bits that I've done, my dogs and the opening paragraph. You can see the header and the footer controlled by the theme. When you get to the end of one of your blocks, let's say this paragraph, you can press return and then it will create a new block underneath, so we then can choose, or we can just carry on typing. Or the other thing you can do is you can just select one from this little menu up on the side. And that has the same effect. If I select the paragraph block, let me add in a title. Now, that currently is set as a paragraph, but, from this menu that we've seen before, that I can change that into a heading, so let me change it to a heading.
Okay, I've now got a heading.
So we've started off with a paragraph, then a heading, and then I'm going to press return and just add in another paragraph.
Okay, there's a paragraph now. I am going to press return and I want to insert an image here. I can do this in different ways.
I can go up here and I can search for image and insert it there. And then I can choose my image. Let's have a look at a different way. I'm going to remove this block. The other thing I can do is, after pressing return, I can go across to the plus over here and insert the image there.
Okay, so when you've got your image block, you have some options so you can upload it.
You click on that. You'll get asked for a location on your hard drive. You can select from the media library, which you've seen me do in previous videos. You can insert your URL where the image is already online, but be careful, don't hot link to other people's images. If there's an image on another website you want to use, you can't just link to it the other way. You can add an image to your image block is directly by dragging and dropping it. So if I want to drag this image here, I can drop it on top of the image block. And that image will then be uploaded to my site and added onto the web page. If I go over and I'm going to open the media library in a new window, you'll see that that image now has been uploaded by WordPress. For that image, I think probably I would resize it a little bit, and then let's just drop it to zoom in so I get more of Jessie, and then apply the changes. This picture of Jessie, by the way, was taken when we couldn't get her into the groomers over the lockdown and her hair grew quite long, but she didn't seem to mind. So let's have a quick look at the preview and open in a new tab and have a look what we've built so far.
Okay, and then really for that end of this, I might want to add in a closing paragraph.
So I could put something down here. And that could be it. I could then publish again, click on View Post, and it opens up my post in a browser. And finally, before we end this video, I want to show you one more way you can add blocks. So we've got a here and press return just to add a new one. And then you can use the /. The / key is a quick way of accessing the blocks. Now, that's just the most recently used blocks that you can see there. But if there's a block that, you want to use, you can type the / followed by the first letter. So if I want to use a quote, /cu, then I can see the quote and easily select it by pressing the Enter key on my keyboard. Let me just undo that. Let's try another one. Let's say I want to do a cover block force. I see. And there are a few / these. Let's say we want to add a YouTube video /y, press return enter and it's added the block, and then I can format it, put in the URL or whatever. So that's a really quick way of adding in blocks. There are a lot of blocks, we've looked at very few. We've looked at the heading, we've looked at paragraph, we've looked at image. What I would suggest you do is go and have a look at all of the various blocks that you've got at the same time. Have a look at the patterns, because patterns are groups of blocks that have been predefined and pre-created for you that you can insert directly. We saw this contact information one in a previous video, but there are all sorts here that you can add. And have a little look at that. Have a look when you click into them. What happens? You can see that they're made up of other blocks. So those patterns can be really quite useful for quickly and rapidly building up a page. In the next video, we're going to have a look at adding images and wrapping text around them. In this video, I want to talk briefly about wrapping text around images, because a lot of students have problems with this, and it's usually because their theme is 100% Gutenberg compatible. I'm using the 2021 theme, which is 100% compatible, so I'm going to show you what should happen. Now, let's say that I'm going to move that image up above this text here, and I want this text to wrap around it. That image at the moment has its alignment set to align center. The text doesn't wrap around the image if I select Align Left. Look what happens, the text now wraps around the image correctly, and if I preview in a new tab, you can see that works nicely. I can also align it to the right. And if I preview, you can see the images now aligned to the right of the text. Other options you have here are wide width and full width. Full width will go the full width across the web page. Wide width will do the same, but it's more used. I think if you have a sidebar on your page, because if you have a sidebar, you don't want the image to go full width because it will go right across the sidebar, but wide, it will take it as wide as it can without going across the sidebar. Now, that's 2021 theme. But not all themes work this way when you align text to the left or the right around an image. Let's just update the page, and I'm going to go to my themes and I'm going to activate the 2020 to show you the difference. Go back to the page with the blog post. I'm going to refresh. So you'll refresh now in the 2020 theme, and you can see that the text is still wrapped, but it's looking a little bit different. Let me resize the image and I'm going to preview so you can see what it looks like. As you can see, the image is out to the side, almost as if it's a left sidebar there. Now we've got the text in the central column and the image out to the left. That's not what we wanted. We wanted the image in with the text in the same column as a text with text wrapping around it. But that's not how the 2020 theme handles wrapping text around images. So depending on your theme, you might see one or other of these systems being used for wrapping text. Whether you like it or not, that's what you're set with. With your theme, you can contact the theme's author and see if there's an easy fix, maybe with some success, and ask them if there's some success to make the images appear in the same column as the text. But otherwise you're going to be stuck with that. So you might see the proper wrapping, or as I call it, the proper wrapping, where the text is wrapped around the image in the column where the text is, or you might see it out to the side, to the left or to the right. One of the techniques I get asked about an awful lot by students is the parallax effect, and if I scroll down this page, you'll be able to see the parallax effect. We have an image with the text sliding over the top going down. We have another image here with text lighting over the top in this video. I'm going to show you how to do that. And with Gutenberg, we need a block called a cover block. So here's a new post. Going to put in a title and grab a little bit of text, just that I can paste. This is just generic lorem ipsum. text, paste that into this paragraph block, and then I'm going to hit return for /SEO for cover. It's like the cover and we've got the cover block here. Now, I'm going to choose an image from the image library and I'm going to choose that fly. And you can see the fly now is there as an image. I don't want it just as an image, though. I'm going to choose an image from the media library and we'll choose the fly. Now, you can see that in the middle of this cover block, we've got some text. So let's write some text. Going to highlight that and I'm going to change you actually into a header, into an H2 head, and I'm going to align it central can add in underneath that paragraph block. And let's just add in a little bit of lore and sum. And then press return and I'm going to put a button at the bottom. There we go, buttons. And put some text.
Okay, at the moment, if we preview, let's have a preview of this slide. As you scroll down, you can see that we come down to the cover block, but there's no parallax.
It also needs to be full width and it isn't currently full width. So let's go and fix that. We're back in the ed now. I'm going to go full width because I need a bit more space to show you this. The first thing I'm going to do, I want to select the cover block. Now, if you have any problems, go up to the list view and click on cover, and that then selects it. And then we can go to the change alignment and choose for with the image now is full width, but it still doesn't have the parallax effect yet. Let's close that down there and I'm going to open up the panel on the right and we want to scroll down to media settings. Now, one nice feature here is that we've got a focal point where you should be able to pick the focal point of the image. However, I don't know whether it's a bug, I don't know whether it's to do with the theme. As soon as you click Fixed Background, we close Fixed Background again. The focal point has reset, so that doesn't seem to be working. Hopefully that will be working in an update. But you'll see now that the image does have the parallax effect. Let's open it in a new window. And then as we scroll down, you can see the parallax effect is working. Let's go down. I'm going to add another paragraph and I'm going to put some more ipsum lorem ipsum text in there. And then I want to create another parallax effect underneath, and we're going to use this one as the starting point. So select the cover block and then using the menu here, click on duplicate. We can move it down one block so that the two are now separated by the text, which is what I want. And I want to change and edit this second one. They go up to the last few days, the first cover. This is the second one, so that's the one I want. And then I can click on Replace over Media Library and I can pick a different picture for this one. So let's pick the Kingfisher and put a new title. And we'll just leave that one with the same paragraph of text. Let's click on Preview and we can have a look and see. What we've basically done is we've just copied one parallax effect and pasted it onto the post lower down. So we've now got two parallax effects and we've edited them. The only thing probably that I would do is I'd put that button and that button in the middle. So let's go back and start with the first one. If you click just the button itself, there's no option for alignment. But if you click to the right of the button, what we were trying to do is select it. You might need to click twice, but you're selecting the entire button block. You see it there now selected. We now have an option here for change items justification. Click on that and then click on Justify Item Center. Now, that block is still selected because we've still got the menu up here, the toolbar up here that applies to the buttons block while it's selected. The button is still appearing over to the left, even though we've set it to center. If we click back into the block again, it moves back over to the left. But don't worry about that. Let's just click twice. To justify center and then let's preview the page.
Okay, We've got the first parallax button, middle, second parallax button in the middle.
So that's how you can easily create the parallax effect using Gutenberg's cover block.